Hey guys, DC Network here. Last year, towards the beginning of the year, the Bakugan reboot was cancelled in favor of rebooting it again, and Bakugan 3.0, as many of the fans call it, came out during the summertime, the toy line release, with the series officially launching on Netflix on September 1st. And when it came out, I was actually very excited to see what this new take on Bakugan was going to be about. If you guys watched my videos at the time on it, it was very different from the prior iterations of Bakugan in that instead of having the different attributes that Bakugan traditionally have, like Pyrus and Aquos and Chaos and etc., they had what looked to be clans that were more, primal, if you will. You had like the Aquatic clan, the Animal clan, the Dragon clan, and etc., the Insect clan. And I was interested to see what this new take on Bakugan was going to be about. When the toy line came out, though, and I started to pick up the toys because I do collect some Bakugan figures, I was a bit disappointed to see what it was about. All of the Bakugan figures split in half and you can mix and match them, which this was a gimmick that they had towards the end of the original Bakugan during Mectanium Surge. I think it was called the Baku Mutants line or something of the sorts. And the other gimmick was that a lot of the Bakugan had special attack forms where they came with ripcords like Beyblades and you essentially could spin them like a Beyblade, which I personally never really understood the point of that. It's a Bakugan, not a Beyblade. And I got the toys, and the thing is, the bottom half of them you have to manually open because the top half is the magnetic attachment, but then the bottom half has all the spinning joints in them, so you have to manually do it, which was kind of weird because at that point it's not really even a Bakugan anymore, is it? But nevertheless, I was like, alright, let's see how this new line does, let's see how this new reboot of Bakugan does, and quite frankly, it looks like it's not doing all too well. It's not doing all that hot because I've noticed at my local Target, and that just going to stores in general, I always take a look at the Bakugan section to see what they have, and I've noticed over the past 6 months or so, maybe even a little bit more than that, since this reboot actually came out, they really haven't been getting as much new stock of it as they used to. Like when I first started collecting Bakugan again during the first reboot, I remember every single week, or even some days I'd go like 2 days in a row or every other day to Target at one point during the summer, I would see that they would really change stock very quickly because the figures kept selling out and they'd have new stock coming in. And I've noticed now with the Bakugan reboot, the 3.0 Bakugan, they don't really sell out as much anymore. I go in every week or every few weeks I go, they have this same exact Bakugan, and I've even noticed, I've looked at the releases for this new 3.0 wave of Bakugan, and they haven't even had that many release waves as compared to the prior reboot of Bakugan. There's only been 3 waves, which the third wave you're lucky if you can find at certain stores. Really, the first 2 waves are what are widely available everywhere. So I decided, okay, let's do a little bit of digging here because it seems like this Bakugan reboot is failing and it might be canceled. So let's do some digging. Let's see how it's doing. Has it officially been canceled? There's been no word on it being canceled. Okay. There's a new Bakugan every year though, so does that mean that they've announced a new Bakugan? So I looked it up, and it turns out that the original run of this reboot on Netflix, like I said before, it started on September 3rd of the year 2023 and ended on January 8th of this year, being 2024. It also is airing on Disney XD, having started on September 23rd of the year 2023 and having ended on March 30th of 2024, which is actually the day I'm recording this video, so it is ending today on Disney XD. So, okay, this reboot's ending. Does that mean there's another one coming, or another second iteration in this 3.0 Bakugan that's coming this year? And I've looked, and there's been absolutely no indication, absolutely no word on another Bakugan coming this year, which is rather unusual because usually when a Bakugan is coming to an end, we know about the new Bakugan probably about 6 months before the current one even ends. So this is very unusual to see that there is nothing out there at all whatsoever regarding a Bakugan series for 2024 going into 2025. This leads me to believe that one of 2 things is happening right now. Number one, this Bakugan reboot has been a failure, which in all honesty I think it has been. As I said before, the indication of just toy sales from what I've been seeing going to local stores, plus the fact that there haven't been as many waves out there, there's no indication about a new Bakugan coming. I'd say this one didn't do as well as they thought it would do. They're either right now doing one of 2 things. They're either internally saying, okay, let's make another reboot. Let's reboot it again. This didn't work. Let's go back to the drawing board. Or internally, they're going to end Bakugan once again and they're going to cancel it, and that will be the end of Bakugan until, some odd years down the line they decide to reboot it again. In my opinion, I feel like the latter is what they should do, and quite frankly, I think the latter matter is what's more likely to happen. I just feel like the thing with Bakugan that I thought was rather weird, and I made videos about this before. The original Bakugan was great. I loved it. You know, my friends loved it, but I remember at the time the original came out, Battle Brawlers, everyone was into it. New Vestroya came out, people started falling off. By the time Gandalian Invaders came out, I was the only person I knew that was still into Bakugan, and by the time Mectanium Surge came out, I even fell off of the series. Then the reboot came out, and you know, you had Battle Planet. I bought one Bakugan just to see what it's like, what are the new Bakugan look like. Apparently it did well, you know, it was doing well. They came out with the second one, which was Armored Alliance, then they came out with Bakugan Rising, then they came out with Evolutions, and then Bakugan Legends. I made a video a few years back talking about how the Bakugan reboot was actually more successful than the original. It had a longer runtime, it was doing well, but then towards the end of Bakugan Rising going into Evolutions, I started to notice a trend with them. I started to notice that we started getting a lot less new molds, which meant that they're putting less resources into it because it's not doing as well as it did when they first rebooted it. Then all of a sudden Legends came out, and that became even more of an issue, and I think I made a video at the time speculating on the Bakugan reboot coming to an end after the 6th iteration, but we didn't even get to a 6th iteration because they canceled Legends early and decided to reboot the whole thing. The only time you reboot a franchise, because I've seen people before say, oh, they need to reboot this franchise, the only time it makes sense to logically reboot a franchise is if that franchise is failing. Bakugan 3.0 would have never happened if Bakugan Legends was selling well. If it was doing well, they would have continued with a 6th iteration in Bakugan 2.0, but they didn't. Instead, they ended that line and decided to reboot the whole thing and just call it straight up Bakugan, or as the fans call it, Bakugan 3.0, which to me tells me, as it was already, the franchise was not doing that well going into the end of 2022 and early 2023, so they decided the panic move, which is let's reboot the thing and hopefully the reboot does well. And as you can see, the reboot, from what I can tell, hasn't been doing that well, and the reboot is coming to an end today on Disney XD. It came to an end on Netflix in January. There haven't been releasing as many toys. The toys haven't been flying off the shelves like they have in the past. There's no indication about another iteration within this new Bakugan reboot. There's no indication about a new Bakugan at all coming this year. I'd say it's pretty likely that Bakugan is getting canceled once again, and I would think personally that this is for the best. Honestly, this is probably the best thing for the franchise right now. Just take a step back, just let the franchise settle, and when the next generation of kids come along, you can try to reintroduce Bakugan to them and see if you can make it a big hit again. But I feel like for now, for this current generation of kids, because really, if we're being honest, that's who Bakugan is being marketed towards. Yes, I do collect Bakugan. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I actually fell off. I haven't purchased a Bakugan since the end of last year. I actually did purchase a couple this year, and they were literally sitting on my table for about a month or two, and I didn't touch them or even open them, and I decided, you know what, let me return these. I'm done with Bakugan. So Bakugan's main target is kids, and clearly this generation of kids have had their fill of Bakugan. They made it more successful in the second iteration, the second reboot, than we did with the first iteration of Bakugan, with Bakugan 1.0. So I think, you know, be happy for what they got with it and just put it on the shelf for now, and when the next generation comes around, you could try to reintroduce it again and try to be even more successful than you were with Bakugan 2.0. But I think for now, this is going to be the end for Bakugan, at least for the time being. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. Do you guys agree with me that the Bakugan reboot seems to have not been doing all that well, and they should just end it for now and put it on the shelf and let it rest, and maybe in 5 years or so they decide to bring it back once again? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.